Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. This is What If Deku Became Batman Part 2. And if you enjoy, please show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. Make sure to check the links in the description, because we do have a Discord that you can come check out, come chat with some people. I'm not really super active in terms of typing. As most of you know, I run multiple YouTube channels, so a lot of my time is heavily dedicated to just making content for y'all. But I do try my best if someone pops in and asks me a question or says something or puts a what if in the ideas. I do try and check it out, or hopefully if I can get back to you, I'll try to respond. It's a little bit difficult from time to time, but I do try my best. Now, with that said, I don't want to waste much more of your time, and I want to get right into the what if, so let's get it. Izuku Midoriya finally enters a new age for himself, and that new age is entering UA High School. UA High School is a totally different time for Izuku Midoriya, because when he enters UA High School, he finally gets his chance at being a hero. Because right here and right now is everything that he expected and everything that he wanted for. Now, the very start, he meets a lot of his classmates, he meets Aizawa, and quickly they're thrusted into a quirk assessment. Now, this quirk assessment, well, Izuku is immediately evaluated on what he can do, what he can possibly do in terms of capabilities and stuff like that. But it's all raw strength, raw power, and luckily enough, he does have one for all, so he's able to utilize quite a bit here in terms of raw power and speed and quickness, and he excels at almost everything, getting first in borderline every single thing he does outside of the ball throw, being that the ball throw is held by Ochako Uraka, who can literally throw the ball into space. But that's kind of beyond the point. Now, he does excel in every single aspect of the quirk assessment exam. And, well, let's just say Aizawa is pretty damn impressed by what Izuku can basically do. There's been a lot of hype around Izuku, a lot of it, right? Teachers and faculty members alike believe that this kid is the future of UA and the future of everything that is to come. He has a very special quirk. He excels at basically all martial arts you can possibly think of. He excels at almost every single academic standard you could possibly think of. And he just kind of has evolved over time, so much so that everybody believes that he's borderline kind of hero ready, and he's only a first year in UA. But Aizawa looks to basically break the kid. He looks to stress him out and work him overload to the point where he wants him to kind of fall apart, lose, and then he can build him back up and make him an even better hero. But Aizawa quickly would realize that this is going to be harder than he possibly could imagine. So much so that at the end of the quirk assessment, he believed that he would have some struggle, but he didn't have struggle at all. So what he decides to do is to say that the #1 student in the quirk assessment, well, they're going to be fighting for the right for the last person to not get expelled. So Izuku, actually being the #1, is told that he's going to fight somebody, and as long as he wins, well, the last person, or the person who's at the very bottom, well, they can still be in UA. And this last person is Hagakure, someone by the name of, or the hero kind of name of Invisible Girl, or everybody kind of knows her as Invisible Girl. And Izuku asks, well, who is he gonna fight? Who is he going to go head to head with? Who is he gonna spar with? But Aizawa tells him that this is no spar. This is a fight. This is something that he's going to have to do in the field, something he's going to have to take on himself. No gadgets, all hands. And he tells him that he is going to have to understand that he's going to have to sacrifice a lot of things in life to make sure that people are safe. So this is just the start of him sacrificing, because as long as he wins, well, the other person doesn't get expelled. But if he loses, he's going to have to hold on to that kind of grief forever, that person is done and dusted. And Izuku nods his head and says he's ready for whatever's to come, and Aizawa nods as well, saying that his challenge and his person he's going to have to fight, well, is him, is Aizawa himself. The class is completely shocked by this, but Aizawa tells him that he has 5 minutes. 5 minutes to defeat him, and if he doesn't, well then, guess what? It seems as if he's not good enough and the other person should just be expelled, and maybe Izuku should be expelled along with her. In which Izuku is shocked to hear this and tells Aizawa that he'll take on this challenge head first, and he'll show him what he's truly capable of. In which Aizawa begins the fight and immediately can tell that Izuku is no joke, that he is far from a joke. And normally he'd be able to keep up with somebody even though he has really good martial arts skills, but Izuku doesn't just have martial arts skills, he has one for all. And on top of that, he is learning the fight style of Aizawa as they are fighting. It seems like Aizawa is trying to cancel Izuku's quirk, but even as he does and as he limits one for all, it seems as if he can't actually quirk or kind of cancel out the quirk of his fast learning, but also it doesn't stop him from utilizing his martial arts. Izuku's on a different plane of existence in terms of martial arts compared to Aizawa, even though Aizawa is no freaking joke in terms of throwing hands. But Aizawa realizes very quickly that this fight is not going in his favor, and he tries to kind of land a blow that would send Izuku back, because at the end of the day, he is a grown man and Izuku is still a kid, right? He's still a teenager. And in terms of strength and in terms of kind of genetic builds, I mean, Izuku isn't actually fully grown yet, so he is lacking in that regard. But when Izuku is finally able to kind of land a flush blow utilizing one for all, and utilizing the kind of the full capabilities that he currently has of one for all, he's able to lay Aizawa on the ground and basically get Aizawa to the point where Aizawa feels as if he can't really fight much more. And Izuku tells Aizawa to basically quit and yield right now before they have to basically continue on to people getting even more hurt, including both of them. Izuku is stressing his body out during this fight, so he basically tells Aizawa that he should just stop fighting now, in which Aizawa would end up agreeing and they would stop their fight as commanded. And of course, Hagakure would be allowed to stay in school, but Aizawa basically says like he wasn't going to actually expel her in the first place, but wanted to see where Izuku was truly at. Izuku tells him that he doesn't have to worry about him slacking off or him thinking that he's already too good. And he tells Aizawa like flat out that just because he defeated him here doesn't mean he's already surpassed Aizawa. Aizawa has a ton of experience in the art of being a hero, has a ton of experience that Izuku wants to learn himself, and says that he doesn't have to worry about all of that. There's a reason why Izuku's becoming a hero. He wants to help those who are basically being robbed and hurt in plain daylight, but just as much wants to help those who are afraid of the dark and are being attacked and sieged and hurt during the nighttime, where a lot of heroes are not out and about and saving others. He tells Aizawa that he wants to be very similar to him. He wants to be the person that saves as much as possible, but leads by example as well. In which Aizawa nods and kind of slightly smirks and thinks that the kid, maybe he'll be alright. Maybe Izuku will be alright. He tells the whole class that they are done for today, so finish up what they have to finish up, go to your other classes and so on, but that he'll see them tomorrow. And the next day, he would see them, obviously the next day, and of course, it would be leading up into All Might gaining, or getting them for a bit of a training session. Now, this training session is heroes versus villains, and frankly, this is going to be very easy for someone like Izuku Midoriya. Izuku and Ochako versus Tenya and Bakugo is a very easy fight. I mean, very easy. Izuku outclasses Bakugo kind of by a long shot, just based on Izuku's understanding of his quirk and also his ability to basically use martial arts upon Bakugo. But Bakugo has that respect for Izuku, so even after being beaten, Bakugo still wants to kind of learn some martial arts and some other techniques that he could possibly utilize to kind of enhance his own quirk and frankly enhance himself to a degree that he wants to see. And Izuku eventually becomes a lot better and a lot more in terms of the classroom environment, right? A lot of the people that actually enjoy being around Izuku and aren't like ego driven, they really ask Izuku for help with their quirks and all this stuff, right? Izuku understands and can break down their quirk even sometimes better than they can, because Izuku's fast learning quirk allows him to kind of learn and utilize the knowledge he has and actually puts into effect kind of countermeasures for each person that is even there. So much so that he can find strengths and weaknesses within them and helps them kind of cover up the weaknesses but enhance the positives. And Izuku's like weirdly a support hero for his teammates and his classmates, which is kind of funny in a way because Izuku is better at basically anything to do with fighting, but he still is pretty helpful in the act of actually support. And All Might sees this as well and believes that even more throughout this time that his choice in candidate of being the successor is better and better, because it's obvious that Izuku can do things that he never could. Advice, the way Izuku's giving advice, and also the fighting techniques that Izuku is using, All Might could never do those things, or at least couldn't do those things. And Izuku begins to even has in the past worked with All Might, worked with him for his kind of combat skills, and tells All Might that sometimes raw power isn't enough. Sometimes you have to basically be able to aim your punch perfectly so you can get the most out of it. You have to turn over those punches to the best ability you possibly can. Just because you're strong doesn't mean you are the strongest you can be. You could always be stronger. In which even All Might understands that concept, but didn't really think too much about it when he was going through his own hero journey, in which Izuku is wise beyond his years, and it shows over and over again, especially with his other classmates who now are taking leaps of progression because of Izuku himself. Now, their next training session would be past this whole heroes versus villains thing, and it would actually be dealing with some rescue training, which Izuku is actually pretty excited for this because this is very down his alleyway. Izuku wants to definitely get ahead of himself kind of with this whole kind of rescue type of training. And when he gets in there, he realizes that something is a little bit off. Something deep down inside him is kind of telling him that something is coming, as if something is about to show up and someone is about to get hurt, in which he can't put his finger on it just yet, but it's as if he's kind of sensing danger to an extent, but not really to the degree that you would think, because eventually a portal would open and villains would pour out, and Izuku would realize that he was sensing somehow these people that were coming. Now, as they invade, Izuku watches as Aizawa basically tells everybody to basically stay put, be protected, and Pro Hero 13 will protect them and so on. But before he even jumps into action, he points toward Izuku and tells him to get going, that it's time to go to work, in which Izuku nods his head and slightly smiles, as immediately he would basically kind of throw off his normal clothes and he would have a suit underneath them, in which everybody is pretty in shock by this, saying that they didn't know he actually had a suit kind of left over, in which Izuku tells him that this is rescue training and he felt that his gadgets were needed, and luckily enough he brought them. He dives in with Aizawa, throwing multiple batarangs toward a ton of these heroes, or a ton of these villains, excuse me. As they explode, they would knock out quite a few of them. As they would fight, they would clash with these lower grade villains, and frankly, it would be pretty easy. Him and Aizawa would just beat the heck out of some of these villains, to the point where it felt as if this wasn't even kind of fair for them. But the real test would be Kurogiri, Shigaraki, and the Nomu. These Nomus are something of kind of insane proportion, Izuku watches as the Nomu is about to land a blow to Aizawa, but Izuku is able to jump in front and block. As he blocks, he kind of parries it to the side, and he can feel that the Nomu is kind of made of a different type of skin. It's as if his skin is more absorbent, and it seems as if even his own punches and kicks won't do as much as he could possibly imagine. Realizing that maybe raw strength and power is kind of what you need here, at least at this moment. At least at the moment until he can figure out how to defeat this thing. So he kind of fends off the Nomu to like the best degree he possibly can, in which he definitely can do it. I mean, he can go blow for blow with the Nomu for the most part, but he's able to kind of avoid a lot of the punches the Nomu throws. He tries to expose any weaknesses and even cuts at certain parts of the Nomu, trying to cut through the tough skin of that Nomu, but it's extremely hard to do so. He's trying to cut through the skin, but it's really not budging. But eventually, when he would cut right below the knee on the back of his leg, he would get the Nomu to basically collapse onto one knee. The Nomu would actually lose feeling in one of his legs to the point where he can't actually control it to the best degree. And of course, it is kind of like a brain dead creature, so the creature still tries to kind of go forward even though his leg is completely limp. Izuku realizes that with enough power and strength, he can actually break through the kind of the shock absorption, and with critical movement and critical blows, it seems as if he can actually get through that shock absorption as long as he's not excessively trying to lay complete and utter strength within it. So maybe he did find a way around just, actually utilizing full strength, but as he's doing this and as he's trying to chip away at the Nomu slowly but surely, he would actually see a hand show up out of nowhere about to grab him on the face. And as he's about to try to react to this, immediately Aizawa would utilize his quirk, so when the hand would grab Izuku, it would actually do nothing. Shigaraki would be shocked to hear this or see this, and Izuku would basically stab the hand with a batarang, and as he pulls the hand back, and he's pissed because the batarang just stuck him, he would pull the batarang out and tell Izuku that he's going to pay for that. In which Izuku shakes his head and taps his wrist a little bit as he clicks a couple buttons, and the batarang would explode. Now, this isn't your normal explosion though. The batarang would explode into this weird cement-like thing that would firm up really quick. And as Shigaraki would actually try to move, it would stick him to the ground, and he would be unable to actually touch the cement to break himself free. And as he's struggling to try to do so, and as he's struggling to try and kind of use his quirk on the cement, he's unable to do so, and it gives an opening for the other heroes, especially when Aizawa is keeping his eyes on Shigaraki. And this would leave an opening, especially when All Might would finally arrive. All Might would take over the duties of fighting the Nomu, who's already weakened by Izuku, and Izuku himself actually targets Kurogiri, their only escape plan. And they're trying their best to basically subdue Kurogiri, and out of nowhere, Bakugo would come spiraling with an explosion, landing an explosion directly to the armor of Kurogiri, and basically knocking him down and almost out. Izuku would subdue him with another batarang, kind of shooting this cement once over on Kurogiri as well, in which kind of restricts them entirely, or restricts them to a large degree. Now, the Nomu is now basically subdued, and so is Shigaraki. Kurogiri tries to open a portal to save Shigaraki, but it seems as if he is actually restricted, so much so that he can't really do it. And eventually would lead to kind of Shigaraki being pulled away and brought to a different position by Izuku. Izuku knows how important this villain must be if he's actually talking the way he's talking. It seems like Shigaraki is talking as if he is a part of some master plan, so he refuses to allow Shigaraki to just leave. And he's not going to allow Kurogiri to just get him out of here. So Izuku does everything in his power to stop the portals from actually pulling Shigaraki away, in which Izuku would be successful because as these kind of portals would fail and as these things would happen, Bakugo would land multiple explosions to the armor of Kurogiri, weakening to the point where he actually passes out. Now, with the kind of League of Villains completely restricted, Izuku and everybody else is kind of good to go. They're all fine, and as other heroes would arrive, they would take all these villains away, including the kind of brain-dead Nomu, in which they are curious about for the fact that the Nomu is an absolute kind of like clear-headed idiot, to the point where it seems as if he doesn't really know what he's doing. It seems like the Nomu is kind of out of it and completely like unaware of what he's actually doing, and it seems like there's an actual human within him, but obviously a normal human wouldn't do the things willingly the Nomu is doing. So it is kind of a scary thing, and they learn that it's basically kind of like a brainwashed, almost dead, if not dead person within the Nomu, which is very, very sketchy. But with the League of Villains completely captured and kind of that situation handled, the students of Class 1A kind of get a bit of a break, and they definitely needed a bit of a break, because at the end of the day, there is some issues and situations that they definitely have to deal with mentally because of an invasion of villains already on a very early day of them being part of UA. But they do have, when they come back, the UA Sports Festival, which Izuku is extremely excited about. The UA Sports Festival is something he's been extremely amped about for a while now, and with some clearance from UA, he's actually able to utilize a ton of gadgets that he created himself, in which this would be a way for him to show off his gadgets and possibly sell them and make a lot of money for doing so, and he's excited to show them off, because frankly, all of these things are going to benefit him massively. So much so that Izuku is actually able to wear his entire suit out, which includes a cape and his armor and his suit, making him more durable and stuff like that. And he can literally use his cape as a motive of kind of flying in a way, but it's more like gliding. But with One For All, he can kind of boost off to the point where he can kind of glide and kind of push air in a way where he can fly or glide a lot longer. And the first part of the UA Sports Festival is something pretty obvious, right? You got the whole speech and stuff like that, which Izuku is involved in, because Izuku did and is the #1 student in Class 1A. So he does his little speech saying that he hopes that he impresses everybody, and the hopes that they all have a good time and blah blah blah, and that he's going to do his best to win, and so on and so forth. And of course, everyone celebrates, everyone cheers. And as the students begin, and this is the first part of the UA Sports Festival, they have a somewhat simple thing, which is an obstacle course race. Izuku would, as the timer starts, and as midnight would tell them all to go, he would have no problem flying through a ton of things, right? The corridor would be easy. He would soar right above everyone else. And then as they pass robots and canyons, it would be so simple for Izuku. So much so that Bakugo himself kind of just abandons the idea of even taking it slow and just starts blasting using explosions to try and keep up. Even when trying to catch Izuku, it is extremely difficult, but Izuku does slow down just a little bit as they approach this landmine section. He tries to approach it kind of slowly, but as he does, he realizes that he would love to try to mess with these devices through tampering, but he actually can't tamper with those devices the way he wants to, because they're not actually devices, right? They're not actual time bombs, C4 or anything like that. So it's a little bit different than what he would like to deal with. Now, he would try and basically jump around and pass everything up pretty quickly. And he would think that he would have quite a bit of a lead, but Bakugo would be right on his tail. So much so that Bakugo would push Izuku into one of the bombs, exploding it, and Izuku would be sent flying straight up. Izuku would smirk as he sees Bakugo trying to take the lead, and he would glide back down toward Bakugo. Izuku would immediately kick toward Bakugo, but he would dodge it. Bakugo dodging and weaving just by a little bit, but Izuku would smack his hand on Bakugo's back. As Bakugo would feel this smack, Izuku would kind of laugh, and Bakugo would ask what's so funny, because he missed. He didn't land a clean blow, but Izuku says that he wasn't trying to, he was just trying to do this, in which basically a batarang with kind of like this magnetic sense to another batarang seemingly would attach to something in the ground, immediately pinning Bakugo straight to the ground. Izuku says that it was a good time seeing him, because at least they get a bit of time to show off some of the gadgets, but he'll let him free when he crosses the finish line. Izuku would basically fly by, about to cross the finish line, as he hears an explosion right behind him. Izuku smirks as he sees that Bakugo was able to get out, but it seems as if he's unable to basically catch up with Izuku, barely losing to Izuku. And Izuku realizes that he really should have taken things a lot more seriously, because he almost gave up first place, especially to Bakugo, because he was kind of messing around a little too much, in which he obviously will take that into account and he'll learn from it, so he won't do that the very next time. Izuku obviously would get number 1 and get into the first place. This would lead them to the cavalry battle, but nothing really that much would change in this cavalry battle. A lot of the people that would join him normally would still join him, and with the gadgets, with the higher usage of One for All and his ability in martial arts, Izuku is able to kind of keep his team away. And when they basically float in the air using Ochako's quirk, or when they decide to do so, Izuku can make it so that they kind of hover and float for a long time without even using Ochako's quirk, leading to them kind of stalling out time and winning on basically a time management kind of play. And obviously they would have their million or 10 million point ban still secure, and they would easily win the cavalry battle. Now this is where things would get interesting. Things would be very interesting, because Izuku would have his first chance at a 1 versus 1 battle. But this 1 versus 1 battle is against someone by the name of Hitoshi Shinso. Shinso is totally different. He's from general studies, and nobody knows that much about him. But luckily, one of his classmates tells him that if he answers a question that Shinso asks, that he will basically be drowned in mind control, and that he needs to be very careful if he doesn't want to be taken over, and basically, well, he doesn't want to lose. In which Izuku nods his head and understands the assignment, and he basically takes on Shinso very normally. But he wonders to himself, just why is Shinso unable to actually join, class 1B, class 1A, or anything like that, any hero course. And this would lead to Izuku actually talking to Shinso. But here's the thing. When Shinso would begin kind of questioning Izuku would try to avoid answering the questions, but it seems as if he actually does answer a question, but just on accident. Trying to get information out of Shinso probably wasn't the best idea during this fight, but it would lead to Izuku being a bit brainwashed. And as he's about to be forced to step out of bounds, he actually begins to see a ton of other figures that would stand in front of Izuku and tell him that he is the future, that he is the only one that could truly save society forever. In which Izuku looks at them but can't say a word. But as Izuku would look back into the darkness, well, he would embrace it. As he embraces it, he can feel his body surge with One for All, and it wakes him up almost instantly. He would immediately dash away from the edge of the kind of the platform, and he would smirk and he would laugh just a little bit. He would say that was pretty interesting. He never felt that before, but he'll avoid that this time. He would dash towards Shinso as he would basically beat him in hand-to-hand combat so swiftly that after he throws him out, he would tell Shinso that he really should have been working on a lot of other things if he wasn't going to have the quirk powerful enough to get into UA the normal and traditional way. In which Izuku tells him that he's been working on martial arts his entire life, that he's been working, training, and he's been learning, always learning. And that's something that every single person should do, especially someone aspiring to be a hero. Izuku would kind of nod at Shinso and then kind of watch as everybody would cheer him on, and he would raise his hand up and thank everybody for the support. But as he's kind of celebrating, as he's basically having a good time and everybody's cheering, he would walk forward and see a dark, very, very dark portal open up right in front of him. Everyone is concerned. Everyone's confused. What's going on? What's happening? We need info on that portal. We need info on that thing. But before they could even react, Izuku tries to move out of the way, but the portal would consume him. As it consumes him, he would open his eyes and he would see just darkness. As lights would flicker on, as the lights would go on one by one in a giant, what seems to be storage area, he would see somebody across from him. See somebody with a mask and with basically no face to be kind of shown. Izuku looks closely and the man is dressed well, but at the same time has a mask that seems to be helping him breathe, in which the man says that it seems like they have a new hero in town. A new hero that might even outclass the one before and even will be better than any after. Izuku is confused and asks the man, who the heck is he? And what is he doing? And why did he bring him here? In which, as Izuku would say these things, the man would introduce himself. He would say that he is all for one. And that soon, his mentor, soon everybody around him will crumble to ash. And as he says this, Nomus would begin to appear all around, Nomu after Nomu after Nomu, and he tells Izuku that he's going to see what kind of hero he truly can be. A portal would open up below All For One, and as he would disappear, Nomu after Nomu, we're talking 10s, 20, maybe even 30 Nomus charge at the kid. Izuku stands his ground, and he's ready for the fight of his absolute life. But for now, that's where we're going to end part 2 of What If Deku Became Batman. And if you enjoyed, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And yeah, I don't really got much else to say. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.